This is Frank Skinner. This is
Absolute Radio.
This is Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio with Emily Dean, and Steve Hall is with us today. You can text the show on 81215, follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Frank on the Radio, email the show via frank@absoluteradio.co.uk. In breath. Good morning, Steve.
Good morning.
Nice to see you.
Lovely to see you all.
So the toupee, is that a regular thing now?
Oh my God.
No, I'm joking. He isn't actually wearing one.
No.
I reckon I'd rock a toupee.
I could imagine you in a toupee.
What's happened to the toupee? 8, 12, 15.
Yes. Well, people have weaves now, don't they?
Is that what it is?
I think so.
I miss the toupee.
I used to look a lot with hair. I used to look like Brian Hibbard from the Flying Pickets. And,
yeah.
I miss that look. And again, it's a really up-to-date reference.
I used to look a bit like him.
I was in a comedy dressing room once, and there was a guy and a woman, I suppose older, but probably younger than me now, and they did a sort of a ballroom dancing jokey act. And I said to him after, I said, it's really funny that. I said, I love the wig's brilliant as well. And I realised that wasn't part of the act. Oh, that was a terrible moment. Oh, he just looked embarrassed and angry. Yeah. How could I have... Anyway, that's that.
Frank, I know we talk about this subject quite a lot on this show, but nevertheless... Flying Ant Day.
Oh, God.
I know, I promised.
It's stretched out for a day, hasn't it? The longest day. Do you remember that film?
It's Flying Ant Year. But I need to share this with you because Sebi Lou from Coventry.
Sebi Lou. Nice.
Sounds like a country and western.
It does,
I
doesn't
like it.
Yeah.
Hi, Frank and team. Long-time fan, first-time messaging. It's Flying Ant Day in Coventry today. The pesky little blighters are everywhere. And I'm reminded of the harsh measures that we once used to get rid of them in the 70s by means of a kettle full of boiling water. Full stop. We didn't know.
Oh, yes.
Now,
We didn't. My mum
Did your
used to do that. Because they used to cluster on the floor sometimes. I think they used to come out of their ant hole with their new wings on. And, she would put a kettle of boiling. I don't know why. They didn't do any harm. But anyway.
I know.
That was happening. My mum was still doing that as little as 6 months ago.
Oh, really?
She didn't do... Did either mother do salt on the slugs? Because that's a very bad way to go, I hear.
They never went for that. That was...
I've seen that.
It's a waste of good salt.
I've seen that done. My dad kept it for throwing in the eyes of people who stopped him in the street at night. Speaking of winged creatures, have you seen my picture on the front of the Daily Mail magazine today?
Check it out, everyone.
Am I winged?
Yes.
And I think they've had a slight going post at my teeth, looking a little bit whiter than normal.
Oh, how do you feel about that?
I approve of that.
Oh,
It's angelic. Is that? Am I right?
It's because he's religious.
I think the headline is Frank Sinner. I don't know what Paul Sinner's going to make of that.
I like to think that on the opposite is Catherine Jenkins then, to the balance of good and evil.
Yeah, maybe. But
what were the wings like to wear? So you've got they put angel wings on you.
Well, they were suspended. I had to back into them. That's how they worked.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But I think if it had been, say, in the Mail on a Tuesday, they'd have left the teeth. But I think people don't want to see this at the weekend.
How many shades
They've
do you
gone the
think
extra
they've
mile.
Well, I don't know the grading, but they're not Jimmy Carr, but they're certainly post Simon Chalmers.
Oh.
Yeah, they're somewhere in between.
Simon Chalmers.
Simon Chalmers look like they're they're like mine. They're like moss covered. They look like the gravestones in Thomas Hardy novels.
Are they
How dedicated to history he is.
Are they what I call tales of the unexpected teeth?
Yes, they are.
Yes.
Or early Who, classic Who teeth. William Hartnell was like the Queen Mother, that teeth made of wood. tiny wooden teeth. He had that thing going on. People didn't care then. They had more important things to. They just got over a world war.
I know.
They're not now where people deal with such frippery in the foreground of their lives.
Frank Skinner on
Absolute Radio.
Ruth, Jordan, Frank would also just like to mention, just so Frank can add it to his chart. I like the idea of you having a chart. It was Flying Ant Day in Smethwick on Thursday.
Oh,
As
so
I
they're
watched
moving.
them swirl into the air, I thought of you.
They're moving across the West Midlands. I see.
I didn't know Ruth Jordan, one of our regulars, was a Smethwick
Well,
person.
we don't know that. She might have seen that on the internet.
You'll never believe what's happening in Smethwick.
Smethwick News. So last week, you weren't here last week, Steve, but I was in a red suit.
Oh,
Red suit, shirt and tie. I was dressed proper dapper from me napper to me feet, as the song says. Because I was going to a wedding. And so when I left here, I drove east. And do you know Marie Antoinette at the back of the Palace of Versailles used to have a dairy? And she used to go in there and pretend she was a milkmaid. And she had buckets to milk the cows. And I think they were like Capi de Monte. But anyway, so she liked that, basically playing at someone who wasn't Marie Antoinette. And whenever I drive in a suit and tie, I sort of like to imagine that I'm in sales.
Strange fantasy.
I just feel, I'm going back to the palace as soon as possible, but just have an hour in the dairy.
fantastic.
Just to remind you.
Do you like to imagine the product that you're hawking?
It differs. I like it to be things that are a bit vague.
Yes.
I like to idea that I'm trying to clinch the Baxter deal. Could be 11k.
Is it a relax? I'm imagining sort of Glen Ross.
What is that?
There's a
David Mamet
David
play
Mamet
that
play.
was
It's
then
very
turned
good,
into a
Frank.
film, but it's very high
heard of
powered.
it.
You've got to say, always be closing.
Oh no,
You
I'm
gotta sell, you
not.
gotta
I'm
sell, you
not
gotta
that
sell.
guy. I'm not that guy. No, I'm
So it's
sort
more relaxed.
It's 5 Live on the radio, and yes.
Yes, I see you as living sort of in the East Anglia area. I can see it all now.
Well, I was heading.
Yeah.
I was heading there.
That's where you live.
I also I thought I looked quite smart, to be honest, in my
You
red
did
suit.
look fantastic.
And do you know when you're driving somewhere and you think you look quite smart, you get a bit excited about turning up. Do you know what I mean? I was quite looking forward to just walking into the church because my family had all gone ahead of me. So it was me arriving late.
Sachet in.
Like James Dean at the wedding of Natalie Wood. Do you know Natalie Wood?
No.
Thanks for the tip.
Thank you.
So, yes, so I arrived and a couple of people said, oh, that's a nice suit. And I
Fabulous.
what
But
happened
what's that
with the
dirty
shirt?
mark on your
Oh.
shirt? They said. Well, poor Emily spent 2 hours trying to get the remains of something off my headphones, which was black, onto my shirt, which was white.
I should say, Steve, I spent at least 20 minutes the first time and I was so happy with the job I'd done. And I looked up 5 minutes later, one link later, and I went, Frank!
No, I'd put them back on again. Like
And
an
it's
old
worse,
fall.
it
And
was-
there's no fall like an old fall.
He was covered in black, so I was sat over him scrubbing for the best part of an hour.
Yeah,
Frank.
well, I'd listened to it. I got quite involved in the drama of it, listening on the podcast
Yes.
during the week.
Yes,
And
well,
they sort of merge into one. I like to imagine that it was some sort of squished flying ant. that
no,
had
it
somehow
definitely
been
wasn't
transferred.
that. I don't know quite what it was, unless someone had been wearing a lot of mascara.
But it sort of became a sort of DJ equivalent of Lady Macbeth.
Yes,
my
it
head.
did. It did, trying to wash it like I didn't want to be a DJ. Do you think that's what it was?
Yes.
That really, I thought I should be on television, and I've got the mark of headphones on my collar. Rob away, out, damn spot. Yes, I see it now.
Frank Skinner on
on Absolute Radio.
Yeah, so it was a church wedding,
Lovely.
Church of England, you know.
I do know.
Yeah, and
You grit your teeth slightly.
no, I'm all right with it. I always feel at a church wedding, I always look around and think, does anyone here actually go to church? You know, you get to the Our Father, and I feel like, you know, saying, right, just follow me, guys. We'll be all right. I've got your back.
You're probably, of the people there, you're the one on the friendliest terms with Justin Portal Welby.
Yeah, probably.
So anyway,
What is it, Justin Portal?
His middle name is Portal.
Oh, is he?
tell me more about the wedding.
So anyway, there was a moment. The vicar, who was a lady. Sorry, I'm a lady. That was the first hymn. No, she was very good actually, but she did a thing I've noticed about the Church of England, which you don't get so much in the Catholic Church. They love an analogy. It's their favourite thing.
And I tell you what else they love, especially the lady vicars. Bit of chunky jewellery.
I didn't notice that.
I think there might have been a jade necklace or some sort of big ring underneath that. But anyway,
I
as
didn't
you were.
notice. But like I said, she actually did a great job, but she couldn't resist the analogy. I mean, many years ago, when I worked at Hales Owen College in the West Midlands, the Bishop of Dudley came to talk. And I remember I had a friend who was not impressed by religion. In fact, I think I mentioned him last week, an expert on Worcestershire place names. Do you remember?
Yes.
And I said, oh, the Bishop of Dudley's come, and apparently we've all got to go to the talk. And he said, I'm not going. I said, oh, I think we have to go. And he said, how many divisions has the Bishop of Dudley? Which is what Stalin said about the Pope. Somebody talks about the power of the Pope, and he said, how many divisions has the Pope? But to apply it to the Bishop of Dudley.
Oh, dear.
Anyway, the Bishop of Dudley said, and for breakfast this morning, I had a boiled egg. And in many ways, we are all like that boiled egg. We are hard and brittle on the outside, but you don't have to dig very deep to find a soft and sensitive interior and a heart of gold. So anyway,
Wow.
so he did that.
Right, you missed your calling. I'm sorry.
So then at the wedding, I should say this is my personal assistant, Jenny, was getting married.
Who's so lovely. Do you, are you familiar with Jenny's
I
work?
don't know Jenny.
And she's
fantastic.
So she married Rob, who's a Sheffield United fan. Anyway, so she said,
man put this.
and love, the thing about marriage, she said, is that in many ways,
It's always in many ways.
Yes.
we are all like Bourbon biscuits. And I grabbed the edges of my seat. And she said, we operate perfectly well on our own. We are sweet and functional. But if we are joined with another biscuit by love, oblique cream, then we are truly at our very best. And then she said, and so I have bought a tin of bourbon biscuits for the bride and groom.
My worst biscuit.
In a
Anyway.
tin that was in the shape of like a giant bourbon. I mean, the analogy was being hammered to the door like Martin Luther's theses. I said theses. Yeah, what was that whistle? That was me.
Yes, it was.
Okay.
I didn't want to refer to it because it was a bit awkward.
No,
but
I'm
you
fine with
covered
it.
well.
I'm fine with it. I do these shows with a small budgerigar on my shoulder. It's something we don't mention because the RSPCA are a bit iffy about it. But it's going to be okay.
So I'm going to call them IMWs in many ways.
Yeah.
Her IMW, did it land well? Did you sense?
I think it landed all right.
Okay.
I think the
Bit
sense of
single-shamey,
bourbon
but-
biscuits ever operating individually, I'm not sure about. They're always joined by cream, aren't they? Isn't
I
that
think
what
that's
constitutes?
That is, that's part of the bourbon deal.
But I knew where
That
I knew what she
explains
was
why I'm not
coming
married,
from.
because I absolutely loathe bourbon. I think they're horrible.
Do you think she's got a sat nav? And in many ways.
Yeah.
Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio.
I am still blown away by your sermon representation. I'd like to see more.
Well, you should
Frank
join.
Skinner
you should
does the
join-
sermons.
Perhaps I should join the Anglican Church.
Well, there's a real just because we've had in many ways it's like a bourbon biscuit and a boiled egg.
Yes.
There's a real implication that they haven't come up with a sermon until the last minute. They've just remembered. He's had breakfast. Gone. I haven't written it. What can I do? It's like some toast. No, boiled egg. That'll do.
Yeah, I'll just have a biscuit before I go. Oh, no. Yes, that's perfect.
But you delivered that so well. I'd like
Oh.
to. It's like, in many ways, love is like a flying ant.
Fella notice me things.
Yeah.
I whenever I'm in a church, and I don't just mean a Catholic church, if I'm out in the countryside and I see a church, I'll often go in for a look round.
Do you, Frank?
And if there's no one in, I will always get in the pulpit.
Do you?
I love it in the pulpit. I don't know why. I don't know why. Yes,
30 years of dirt.
not so much now at my age.
No.
But, no, I do. I love to be. I don't know why comedy clubs, instead of having a stage, don't have a pulpit. It's much better. You can lean forward, and it's great.
I needed an orange box last time I stood in one of those.
Really?
Well, they're quite.
Yeah.
It's difficult
Yeah,
to
yeah.
get authority in those things. They're deep, Frank, the pulpits. Is
Yeah.
it pulpit or pulpit?
I think either is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you ever deliver a bit?
I do. I will do a bit of the today's reading.
This is you've gone from salesman in the car. You're a salesman.
It's an alternative job.
Yeah.
In the streets, on a vicar.
Jonathan
sheep.
Swift. Yeah. Jonathan Swift, the 18th century satirist, etc., had a pulpit on wheels. And if anyone fell asleep during his sermons, he would instruct his assistants to push the pulpit right next to them, and then he would shout at them. And they'd wake up, and Jonathan Swift, who apparently was a terrifying-looking man, would be leaning down really close, like the Pope Mobile.
Yeah.
Early.
He's the first Dalek.
Yeah.
What I don't like so much now is when they have mics. Because, projector.
Hey, listen, speaking of mics, we had the speeches at the reception.
Yeah.
Because the thing happened at the church which I've never seen before, which was lovely but slightly comical, is that bit when all the registers are signed and the bride and groom go up the aisle and everybody's, and it's lovely and people applaud and they think, it's when we get out Sobe, had to throw confetti. And he's just happy. Everybody looks happy and lovely. And then they got to the door and we all got up, and then they turned back round and came in again and said, it's raining. At first, I thought there's a lap. Perhaps they do a lap of honour in Anglican ceremonies that I'm not familiar with.
In sickness and in health. No, it's raining. No.
Yeah, exactly. So that I wasn't.
So they just
expecting.
loitered.
But I have to tell you now about the speeches, because I saw something I'd never seen before.
You didn't give advice, did you?
No, I stayed out.
Frank gives helpful advice.
Notes.
No, there was nothing wrong with the speeches, but well, we'll see.
Frank Skinner.
Absolute Radio.
Speeches.
So the normal thing happened. It's like, the groom did a speech and the best man did a speech. There was two best men and they did a speech. And then somebody in the audience started doing a speech supplementing some of the things that they felt hadn't been said. So they were given the microphone. And then the microphone was... And I'd never seen this at a wedding.
It was a free-for-all.
It was a communal microphone. And now, don't get me wrong, Vox Populi, but for me, what begins with the communal microphone always ends with the guillotine. You know what I mean? It was a slight takeover.
Well, you're carrying that Marie Antoinette theme right through to its final conclusion.
The people did rise up there.
Was the first speaker, was it invited, or did they just grab the first one?
No, they started talking, so somebody obviously gave them the mic, and then someone else spoke. And
it's like Twitter.
I'm not saying they didn't say anything bad, but I just thought, I've never been at a wedding where like an open mic night. Yeah. And so anybody who wanted to do a speech was
Were you tempted? Were you tempted to go? I'd like to speak and just say this is all wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
This should not be happening.
Know your place. I felt like saying sacre bleu. But so yeah.
So did you? You didn't speak?
No, I didn't. I didn't speak. I didn't feel it was right. And then my son got up and did "We Will Rock You."
Well, I've just seen video evidence of this, and he was, I mean, what a performance.
No, he was great. And he sang the song and also played guitar. And he played it with a mighty fuzz box, really dirty.
Incredible guitarist.
One has respect and love even for Brian May, but his guitar, for me, his guitar has always had something of the ice cream van about it. Do you know what I mean?
Do you find?
Yeah.
I love his work. I love the work he does for Badgers, though.
Yeah, I don't know what that work is.
In many ways, love is like an ice cream van.
Yeah, exactly. It is accompanied by music. But, so he did that. And my PA, who I've never heard sing a note in my life, got up and did a couple of brilliant ABBA numbers. And ABBA seemed to have taken over my partner has been to see ABBA Voyage twice. He's now planning to go again. My son has been twice.
Is it ABBA Voyage or is it just ABBA Voyage?
Well, I like it.
I mean, I think it's just ABBA Voyage.
Do you remember I discussed the idea that Bon Jovi could do one called Bon Voyage? And I think I've stuck with that. But so I like Simon Le Bon Voyage, if they could do a Duran Duran. Anyway, so...
that's a travel show waiting to happen.
But the last time he went, my heavy metal son, his auntie bought him an ABBA T-shirt, which he's been wearing. I mean, what's happening? ABBA is all over.
Is it all the rage?
I don't. It reminds me of when their fellow countrymen, their fellow Swedes... permeated and corrupted my life in the 1970s with their film industry. They're not to be trusted. It's as simple as that. So yeah, Barzi in an ABBA T-shirt, I couldn't believe my eyes.
This could be. I could imagine sort of a metal version of some of ABBA's hits would go down pretty well.
I don't know. When I was at school, they were the enemy.
I've heard you say this on the show a few times.
Yeah.
Hang on.
It's like a slow process of reconciliation.
I think there's an idea now that everybody loved them, and that wasn't true. But a lot of people did and do. And as I've said, I can now see their qualities. But at the time, we like metal, we like Sabbath. We didn't like ABBA.
Oh.
Just saying.
Well, that's the crossover, Black Abath.
Yeah, that'd be good. Black Abath. Be back in a mo.
This is Frank Skinner. This is
Absolute Radio.
This is Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio with Emily Dean and Steve Hall. You can text the show on 81215, follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Frank on the Radio, email the show via frank@absoluteradio.co.uk. So I was talking about, just to round up, like I say, it was a great wedding. We had a brilliant time. And many beautiful things were said. You know, they had the sermon about St. Paul about without love it means nothing, you know, that one.
Yeah.
So it's all lovely, and I think I remember being particularly moved. What about this? When someone said there is a fish and chip van now parked outside for your just go and help yourself. I mean,
Fantastic.
wow.
Fantastic.
That was like the evening part of the meal, but what joy.
That's a bit of class. I like that.
Fish and chip fan. Excellent.
Did you feed stuff your face? I bet you did.
I did.
Good boy.
I did stuff. I stuffed my face and the faces of my family. Anyway, the thing I didn't mention, which I thought was terribly significant, no one was at all interested in, was the wedding took place in a church in Donmo. Now, Steve is nodding. Does it mean anything to you,
Nothing.
Steve?
Well, I know I'm nodding for the wrong reason that a very excellent comedian called Paddy Lennox runs a gig in Dunmo that I'm doing later in the year.
Okay.
That's why I nodded.
Well, this might be helpful because Donmo is mentioned in Chaucer in the Canterbury Tales.
Oh.
The Donmo Flitch is mentioned by the wife of Bath.
Is it
Right.
now?
Now, the Donmo Flitch, which is a local phenomenon still, and was a big deal in the late what is the 1300s, the late 14th century.
Kind of a big deal in 1380.
Yeah, exactly. So this is it. A couple get married, and then they go to. Then it would have been like a guildsman or something, a group of town elders, and after a year, I think a year and a day of marriage, they have to go up to them with other people who've been married at the same time, and they have to try to convince the judges that at no point, actually I wrote this down, that they have not offended each other in deed or word in that year and a day, and that they have never wished yourselves unmarried in that time.
Good.
Yeah, and if you, I'm going to ask Steve's mate, you're married, aren't you, Steve?
Yeah, I mean,
come over to you in a minute. And if you can convince the judges that you haven't had an argument in that time and you've never regretted getting married in that year and a day, you get a side of bacon.
Really?
The Donmo Flitch. A flitch is exactly that.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's a relief, because I thought it was going to be if you can't convince them, then the wedding's off and it's no longer legally binding.
No, it's...
You win a prize.
But
It's like doing
imagine...
a residency exam. You do a lie detector test.
Imagine the long medieval walk home if you haven't convinced them that you never regretted getting married.
Do
That is
they
a
deal
tough-
with it in a Simon Cowell way when they give you your results?
I imagine. Well, look,
I like to imagine.
isn't it medieval Mr. and Mrs.?
That's it. It's got a real. I'd like to imagine Brucey being the judge.
Yeah. But what do you think you could have said after a year and a day, Steve, that you'd never?
300. That's a tough 366. I don't think we lasted 366 minutes without an argument.
Yes. But I'll tell you what
Hi, Steve's wife, if you're listening.
I'll
I'm
tell you
having a
what
lovely morning.
I've always liked on the counterintuitive front is that people who, if anyone says, "Oh yeah, we never argue. We've been together for years. We never argue."
No.
As soon as they've gone out the room, people say, "Well, there must be something wrong there." No, me and Kath, who used to argue every day and argue less, but still argue.
How many times would you say roughly a week?
Well, I can't count this last week
Okay.
because that was twice, but normally not maybe once a month now.
Really?
Yeah, we're much
That's
better
great.
than we were. But people think, oh yeah, that's a good. But if you say never, people think,
Well, it's a bit Stepford Wives.
But yeah, people honestly think there's something.
It's a bit.
There's something a bit sinister at the core of their relationship that they're not arguing.
Yes.
Doesn't make any sense, really, but I absolutely adhere to it 100%.
Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio.
Frank, we're getting lovely responses to you and your angel wings.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Frank all over my weekend. Pictures of you coming in. People are very excited to see you in the wings. You've got your wings.
It's, who'd have thought I'd suit wings? It's not a look you can really get. It's
They
very
do suit
vim.
you.
They do suit you.
Very vim vendors.
Not everyone suits wings. You do.
That's a terrific reference.
Thanks very much. Do you get it, Steve?
I do. I'd never
do.
seen that film until
I've
last
seen it.
year, and it's stunningly brilliant.
I need to see it again because when I used to work at an art house cinema in Birmingham, I went to see that twice. Wings of Desire by Wim Wenders, with which featured. He actually goes to the filming of a Colombo and finds out that Peter Falk is an angel. But I never got through it. I was so bored with the film, I never got through it. And maybe it's something I should try as a more grown-up person.
I loved it. I wouldn't have been ready for it as a younger man. The Peter Falk, Nick Cave combo in the film did it for me.
See, I don't remember. I need to check it out. I remember there was some great shots.
Doctor Who podcast.
Yeah, it is. Sorry, it is a bit. What about you two talking about Barbenheimer?
We were talking Barbenheimer.
But that was off air, which is everything. All bets are off air. We've heard from the outside world anyway. What they saying?
Oh, they've got all sorts.
Ruth Jordan was picking up on your Jonathan Swift reference and was asking whether you saw the Channel 4 programme The Great British Miracle Meet earlier this week.
No.
Which is a brilliant show, but it's very much based on Jonathan Swift.
Is he?
It's one of those things that masquerades as a real show and turns out to be a fairly biting satire. It's Greg Wallace. But it's very much based. There's a line where he references a modest proposal at the end.
Greg Wallace is involved
Is he
in
the
a
one I sat
biting
next
satire.
to on the train? I know that's Simon Miller.
No,
Okay.
but they all. I know what you mean. They all mix up into one saute.
They're all in the same pot.
They are.
Frank, we've also had this in from Chris Goldie. Someone tweeted 90s football memories, and
Yeah.
it said, it was rather lovely. It said Friday nights in the 90s, great days. And there was just a picture of you and David on the sofa.
Right.
For fantasy football. And I love this from Chris Goldie. He messaged to say, that was the best year of my life. I was 12 at the time, and I honestly thought these two guys were like gods. Don't you love that?
Oh,
yeah.
You're a godlike figure to these people, Frank.
Hence the wings.
yeah.
Me and Claire Rayner are synonymous with wings.
It's not
now
a youth group,
forever.
Lovey. She loved telling people to do that.
I saw Claire Rayner in the Joe Allen's. Claire Rayner was something, I don't know if they still exist, an agony aunt. And she was on 2 sticks, Claire. And they looked, you know what I was saying? She was on 2 sticks. She was not steady on her feet.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
This was towards the end. I
Yes,
think.
okay.
And ironically, she was in agony, I think. But she had. They weren't standard sticks. They looked like. You know what I said? Marie Antoinette had Capi de Monte bucket. Said they looked like that. They were like China walking sticks. Really, I'd never seen anything like it. I presume they were wood, but enamelled in some way.
Oh, were they?
I think she was having dinner with Paula Wilcox from Robin's Nest.
Was she in one of your things, Paula Wilson?
She was. She played my mother.
Yes, yeah.
She
In
did,
Shane.
Yeah, she did. No, yes, in Shane.
Oh, Frank. We haven't talked about
No,
Shane
not in
for so
Shane.
long.
In Blue Heaven.
Blue
Okay.
Heaven, yes.
Yes. How dare you bring up Shane? Oh, God. You are never coming back.
Frank Skinner on
Absolute Radio.
On the subject of your appearing with wings on the front cover of the magazine.
Actual wings, can we
Actual
say?
wings.
Not jet style wings, as in Paul McCartney's wings.
I'd love to appear. I was in the Wings fan club.
Were you? Oh.
Ah, fantastic. What did it? Was it just called the Wings Fan
What
Club?
did you
It
get?
was. Not much.
Tank top, maybe?
I think he got a newsletter once. I had a card that had the Wings logo on it, and it said my name and member.
Was it Mamounia? Was that one of the? There's a song that you've talked about.
Mammonia, 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 whoa. Yes, that was one of those.
Okay.
So Nigel Turner, on the subject of you wearing wings, has said, if you're going to be wearing wings, Frank, beware of old ladies with kettles full of boiling water.
Oh, of course. In my end is my beginning. Yes, that was an earlier reference to how Steve's mom and many moms used to get rid of flying ants
ants.
just with boiling water.
Yeah.
Any more for any more?
Well, I tell you what I'd like to know is what we've invited you on, Steve. You're here with
I
us.
didn't.
Okay.
I didn't know anything about it.
I apologise.
I'm joking.
Next time I'll let you know.
No, I did know.
I want to know what is going on in this man's
Yeah,
life.
I don't know. I don't know what Steve's up to.
What say you, Steve?
How does he live?
I mean, that's a question.
How does he
That's a
live with
question I
himself?
ask. My wife asks me that
Steve.
very, very often.
Steve, how do you sleep at night?
No, I
How do
don't
you
know what
look
you're.
yourself in the mirror?
I don't know what you're up to, Steve.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Come on, Steve.
Steve's
I've
gone
been-
a bit behind the scenes, hasn't he? He's
Yeah.
become one of those guys.
Well,
He's become
yes.
a writer.
I've had a week of celebrations. I've finished on tour with Russell Howard last week, so that's done and dusted. And so I've celebrated. I went out twice in a week, which for a father of two, I was
Are you
quite
doing
thrilled by.
Edinburgh, Steve?
No, we are.
I deliberately asked that question in order to point out that I've completely sold out my Edinburgh run.
Have
And
you?
so
Fabulous.
I have added another show, and the tickets are available.
Excellent.
And now, sorry,
Frank,
carry on. So you
that's
finish your
lovely.
tour.
And I went out twice. I've had a music-filled week. I went to see Blur at the Hammersmith Apollo on Tuesday, who I love very much. The third time I've seen them, I saw them do a warm-up gig. I saw them at Wembley, and then I saw them at Hammersmith.
Are you a big Blur person?
I am a very big Blur person.
Of course
so
he
forgot
is.
that.
They all are, aren't they?
forgot that.
love them very, very much. And they played. It was
I've
one of the
never
perfect.
seen you in a Fred Perry.
Oh, I've got a few every now and then.
yeah.
Well, this is I deliberately. Obviously, a few weeks ago on the show, there was the discussion of what T-shirts are you supposed to wear to there was the metal faux pas. I think it was referred to as.
Well, I was invited to the Wembley gigs and couldn't go, mainly because of child things, and also we went to see the Hollywood Vampires on the same night. Nevertheless, I was sent a Blur T-shirt, which is, I like Blur, who doesn't? And it's a really nice T-shirt. So I wore it, and I actually saw Jodie Whittaker in the street, and she said to me, "How were they? Was it a good gig?" I said, "I didn't go." I said, "I'm not, that big a fan. I just think it's a nice T-shirt." And she thought it was hilarious. The idea that I would wear a T-shirt and not be a big fan. And about 4 people said to me, "Oh, well, yeah, I bet you," they're brilliant, aren't they? So people do assume that you don't just.
Yeah.
Whereas I said to my Polish cleaner, "Oh, Ramon's T-shirt," and she said, "Who?" So you must have read it. I suppose he only says it in the mirror.
Oh, yes, I imagine. I saw some pictures on Instagram, and it looked to be a sea of Harringtons.
Oh, was it? Was there any dog to check, Harrington?
Oh,
Prince of
fine.
Wales?
Oh,
Yeah, quite a bit of that.
Yeah.
It was quite nice now that there's peace in our time. There are quite a few Oasis T-shirts worn with love.
Oh,
It was
lovely.
quite sweet to see the
That is-
cooling of that relationship.
the coolest
Sorry.
shakering.
Oh no, they're still persona non grata.
Are they?
Did they get cancelled?
Oh yeah, for being awful, but also for the singer being awful as well.
Cancelled
Oh,
for
I
being
didn't know that.
That's the John
Oh,
Mills
it's
So
grandson.
hard to keep. I
Please.
must get cancel alerts. I think I'm too frightened to open them.
Frank Skinner.
Frank Skinner.
Absolute Radio.
Back over
Yes.
at Blur Towers with
Well,
Steve.
I wanted to ask because the other gig I went to was last night. I saw there have been 2 brilliant albums in the last few weeks from musical Sons of Birmingham. Stephen Duffy, the new Lilac Time
Stephen
album.
Tintin Duffy.
Stephen Tintin Duffy, his band, the Lilac Time, got a new record out.
Duffy.
And it's just amazing.
Duffy.
Why is he
Do you
called-
know who that is?
Yeah.
That's my John Alderton impression. I don't do it on stage,
love
but in Please Sir, the bad lad, or not the bad lad, I think it was the not very bright lad, was
Yeah.
called
It's not bright.
Duffy. Anyway, carry on.
So I love that album. But last night I saw Dexys.
Wow.
Oh,
And
come on.
their new album is incredible. I absolutely love it. And it was just so he is 70 years old in a few weeks' time.
Is he
Kevin
really?
Rowland.
Still in the dungarees?
It's not quite. He was wearing it looked like one of those Jean Paul Gaultier perfume bottles. It was a sort of striped top with a sailor hat. So it was either a
Oh,
Jean
yeah.
Paul Gaultier perfume bottle or a bottle of Matey, if you're
Oh, yeah.
of a
Well,
certain
maybe it's a
vintage.
bottle of fun.
The thing about dungarees is they take on slightly more Grandpa and Dukes of Hazzard vibe as one ages.
I saw a man, I think the only man I've ever known, like over 10, who could carry them off was my tour manager, Omar, who carries them off
Omar looks
brilliantly.
stunning in them.
But I saw like a man a bit younger than me, but not much the other day, and I thought he looked ludicrous. But women look great in them. Why is that?
8, 12, 15.
8, 12, 15. Yeah.
Styles wears a dungaree.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
the
does he?
Styles boy, yeah.
I know,
we'll
but
talk about
there's
that
nothing
later.
on him. He doesn't really interfere with fabric.
Oh, I wish the day someone says that about me, I
What
could try
about when at Ascot someone said congratulations on having a small back to Emily? I don't know if that's talking about the betting. Anyway,
So
sorry.
I wanted to ask.
You must know we do interrupt each other as well. It's not just you.
Sorry,
I've done it.
Steve.
It's not
I've
just
done
you,
this
Steve.
enough.
He does it too.
Yeah, I
fairness.
mean, this is digression
There's
central.
absolutely nothing wrong with that. Well, this is because I found myself wondering. I absolutely loved it. But I found myself wondering on stage whether
You wandered on stage? Oh, my God. That's Brian Wilson. There was some like, I forget who it was there, but it was some soul legend, and Brian Wilson walked on in a dressing gown and pyjamas.
Oh, it's not.
Oh, no.
He had
Poor
plenty
Brian
of
Wilson.
I was wondering whether you'd ever come across Kevin Rowland or Stephen Duffy in your Birmingham
Have I?
musical
We
era.
used to both get the 120 back home. So Kevin Rowland's always sat at that seat. You know that seat at the front upstairs, best view in the house?
Oh.
When you have to hold on to the chrome in case you get through the window when they stop.
Have you really ever seen him?
No, he used to get
Is
the
this a true
120.
story?
Yes. So I used to get the one. He was famous and I wasn't, but his violinist, I think it was Steve, was he called?
He must get
pub.
some good royalties.
Worked in the pub I used to drink in. So,
know this,
but
man.
yeah, I used to. He lived in a place called Rood End.
Well, so did you. 30 years of
Rood as in Holy Rood.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, I used to see him quite a bit.
Brilliant.
But maybe he was unapproachable.
You've never met in real life.
No, I don't really operate in real life anymore. Never bring it up again.
Frank Skinner. Frank Skinner.
Absolute Radio.
Absolute Radio.
We're talking about Kevin Rowland sing Dexys. My favourite element of the gig last night was that it started at 6:30 and was done by 8:30.
Oh, yes.
And as a man of advancing years, I was delighted by that.
Well, I saw Dexys at the Hippodrome in Birmingham.
Do you call people say Dexys or Dexy? Is that what
And
people
we
call
always
them?
said Dexys.
Yeah, and
it's
they've
it's
now-
a mouthful,
yeah,
isn't it?
well,
Dexys. How many syllables?
And
is
it's
that?
now
A lot.
officially just Dexys. He's
Oh,
officially
is
changed
it?
the name.
Well, now he's wearing a beret and round glasses, of course.
Yeah. I was saying he really looks like old Groucho.
he really, really does.
Well, that is the worst thing I ever heard. Da-da-da-da. When I saw him at the Hippodrome, they screamed when he came on, and he said, if the screaming doesn't stop, I'm going off and not coming back on. I'm stopping the gig.
Did he?
Wow.
Yeah, a
Did the screaming
demand I've
stop?
never had to make, except that one time there was a mouse in the auditorium.
Was this in the 80s that you saw?
Hold on, I'll get me journal. I mean,
saw
when they were in their pomp.
In their pomp, because I saw them when they came back in 2012. I saw them at the Barbican, and they played "Come On Eileen." I couldn't believe it. I thought there's
You
no
were
way.
shocked
Yeah,
that
there was
Dexys Midnight Runners played.
because he hated. He grew to hate his
Did he?
hit because it was one
I'll
of those.
never grow to hate-
It was the millstone around his
I'm
neck.
afraid it's not his business.
And but I
Also,
thought
when
it was
you
like
say
watching
the
a unicorn
millstone
tap
around
dancing.
your neck, I think you'll find it's actually your mortgage payment. Okay?
No, it's unacceptable, that, I think.
Well, he played it. He'd mellowed.
No,
towards
but
it.
I think it doesn't belong to him. It belongs to us. Do you know what I mean?
It's
Once
like
you
Three
release
Lions.
it out
It's
there,
like Three Lions.
it's like Three Lions. I'm not sick of that, though. That's
exactly.
It's biannual. It's not too bad. But I mean, that summer, I was playing cricket a lot that summer, and we all used to get in the pub after and get drunk and really sing Come On Eileen. Like, we'd put it on the jukebox 5 or 6 times. It was brilliant. And it referred to one of my own favourite artists, Johnny Ray.
Yes. Broke 1 million hearts in mono.
He did. I don't know if you've ever been to Mono. It's a gay club in Vauxhall.
Oh, God, Frank.
I wanted to ask you about... Oh, sorry, I spoke over you.
No.
I wanted to ask about the Hollywood vampires. I'm unfamiliar with the Hollywood vampires.
The Hollywood vampires are what they used to call a super group. In that, they have people like Joe Perry from Aerosmith. Do you know him? He's a brilliant guitarist. When I say Aerosmith, I mean the band. Don't picture him over a hot forge making arrows.
I know Steven Tyler one. That's Aerosmith, isn't it?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
That's my first date with my wife seeing Aerosmith.
But most famously, Johnny Depp is on guitar and Alice Cooper is on lead vocals.
What, has he joined the band permanent like?
Yeah, I think when they first started the Hollywood Vampires, people like John Lennon, it was like a drinking club.
Really?
Originally. And part of their thing is that everyone that used to be in it is dead. So they sing a song called Everybody Died, but there's lots of they have lots of stuff on the back screen of various dead pop stars. Of course, Alice is no stranger to speaking about mortality, including I love the dead. So, he's fine with it. But Johnny Depp, and I know Johnny Depp's been on a rocky road, what with bringing the dogs over. Scandal and other stuff.
I like and other stuff.
But they did a version of, you get to hear like Alice Cooper singing Baba O'Reilly. The Who hit. It's pretty wild.
Yeah.
And also, I'll tell you.
Sorry, I'm still laughing at Johnny Depp's been on a rocky road bringing the dogs over.
That was quite a scandal, the illegal importation. Well, the other stuff's a bit dark for breakfast. Too dark for breakfast. That's what it says on my T-shirt. This is Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio with Emily Dean, and the tremendous Steve Hall is with us this morning. You can text the show on 81215, follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Frank on the Radio, email the show via frank@absoluteradio.co.uk. I was just talking about seeing the Hollywood Vampires. I was particularly excited they were supported by the Tubes. It was a band I saw in Birmingham Odeon in the 70s. Do you know the Tubes?
I'm trying to remember this.
We're white punks on dope.
Yes.
Oh,
and
Mum
I don't like
and Dad moved to Hollywood.
Exactly. Don't do the whole thing.
For PRS
Don't
reasons
do any
and
of it.
human dignity.
So they have a lead singer called Fee Waybill, who in those days used to have 9-inch platforms and very little clothing. And he still took his shirt off, I think, now as a threat to the younger people in the audience in many ways. But yes,
in many ways.
So it's great to see, and in many ways. But Alice Cooper's a big deal in our house. He was the first, certainly one of the first real heroes of my child. And Alice Cooper, because he works for, is it Planet Rock he worked for? He sent a video out of the blue, or in this case, out of the black, just saying hello to Buzz and thanks for being a fan. And it's the only time, you know that jaw drop expression?
Yeah.
It's the only time I watched Buzz. I gave him this video and I watched it, and his jaw literally looked like the tendons had been severed. It just dropped with sheer. Oh, it was a great moment. So we'll always love Alice in our house, but who was sitting next to us is the question.
Oh, I'm dying to know.
Was in a box, which you want to be at an Alice Cooper gig.
Was it a rock star?
It wasn't a rock star. It's someone I think you know.
Personally?
But I hadn't met him before.
Oh. Actor?
No, not
Comedian?
an actor. No.
Surgeon?
Yes.
Adam Kay?
No.
Oh.
animal surgeon.
Oh, it's not Noel Fitzpatrick.
It is.
Supervet.
It's
Oh my
Supervet.
God!
Supervet was next to us, and he'd been to a lot of the gigs we'd been to. He'd been to Download and Iron Maiden and stuff as well. Who knew?
Oh, Supervet. How did he look, Supervet?
This is the most
Did he look
excited I've
rock?
ever
Did he
seen
look
you,
rock?
Emily. This is.
Well, he said, I love Noel. He's a charming man and very good with animals.
Well, he said about this, he said, if ever you want to come and see an operation.
That's quite a chat
I
up
said,
line.
no, I don't want to. I don't want to. Do you want me to faint? If you want to see me, test the theory about whether fainting actually.
Wow.
I think, because on telly, I can't watch those bits when he actually gets the scalpel out.
Is that the equivalent of if you ever want free tickets?
Well, I think it was that, but
You should go down to the centre. It's fascinating.
I know, but some people can handle that. and
No,
some
but there's
can't.
cats having physiotherapy in the swimming pool. They have a lovely time there.
Anyway, me and Buzz were clapping along, and Noel was slapping a couple of prosthetic Alsatian forelegs together. And like I say, he's a real rock guy. He's been to a load
Well,
of
you know,
similar gigs.
he is. You know this, don't you? I think he's very open about this now.
Oh, is he?
He was the song "Toxic." It was it was based on him.
What, the Britney Spears?
Yes, Kathy Dennis
Written
who
by
wrote
Kathy
it.
Dennis.
Oh,
dated
it wasn't
Noel.
Britney, didn't.
Kathy
Oh, is
Dennis
that
wrote- and
right?
she dated- And Noel's been very open, yeah.
Oh, I love that song as well.
Supervet is toxic.
Yeah, that's a great song.
I
And
wonder if he
featured
plays it
in
during operations.
Was that his chat up line to Kathy Dennis? Do you want to come and see me operate on an animal?
featured in the original 2005 Russell T Davies Doctor Who series.
Oh, here we go. The podcast's back.
Yeah,
Oh,
Toxic.
God.
The
Steve's got the black.
podcast. The podcast.
See, they're both cracking out the black t-shirts, rolling the sleeves up. The bro podcast.
Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio.
A friend of ours is training to be a vet at Nottingham University. And I said to her, I was talking to a vet the other day and I couldn't remember what the content. I said, I wonder who it was. It was Supervet. She went, oh, wow.
Yeah.
And I didn't realise in veterinary circles, he's
he's a
regarded,
god.
he's a pioneer.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
Oh, he is.
Yeah, he's not like, some television
When was he
bloke.
first?
Well, he is a television bloke, but I mean, he's got
Yeah.
a lot more going.
Yeah,
When was
it's
he first?
interesting.
Was he vets in practice or
No, he's Supervet.
that was the name of the show, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah. You remember Animal Hospital?
No.
No, I blocked that.
We don't
out.
talk
Oh,
about
yeah,
that,
we don't talk
Frank.
about.
Well, that was the version I always imagined before I saw it.
Careful.
It would be animals with like scalpels sellotaped conducting minor operations. I thought it was run by animals. Turns out.
It's a fuzzy felt hospital.
Yeah, exactly. So I got, when you get into the radio studio in the morning, you know that feel. This is observational comedy.
I do.
At its most alienating. When you get a lovely gift, and this morning I got a big, glossy, full of pictures and drawings book. And it was the official story of the film Conan the Barbarian, which I remember seeing at the Triangle Cinema in Aston, where I think it was shown ironically
Okay.
back in the 80s. It was Arnie's breakthrough movie, I think it's fair to say. And it's John Walsh, I think. There's no letter, but he sent it. I met him once. He's a big Ray Harryhausen aficionado. You know Harryhausen stuff?
I'm familiar. And I think John Walsh, is he the former literary editor of The Times, maybe?
No.
Okay.
He might have been. I'd be shocked if he was, because
Okay.
he's so sort of sci-fi and...
Oh, he's one of yours, you and
he
Steve.
sent me a Flash Gordon book of a similar ilk.
Okay.
Remember? That's
Okay.
brilliant. If you love Conan,
And if you want a coffee table book, Feet, Conan. I'd love
Yeah.
it if you had that, because it does come across as a coffee table book with World of Interiors and
It's
Bentleys.
a coffee table
and then
book for
Conan the
people who don't have a coffee table. For people who just have a deck chair and a fridge for the beers.
It's funny, I was remembering, I feel like it's 30 years of dirt. I feel like there's bits of your career I remember. I'm sure you've talked about the triangle in Aston in previous
I
shows.
have.
So it's like a bit of your life.
I don't like the
this.
sound of this.
What
can I
was
just
brilliant
say?
was I worked there, but I got paid in tickets.
Oh, fantastic.
And so I just saw art house movies and experimental theatre for about 3 years in the heart of Birmingham. It was a very special place, the Triangle. Do you ever go there, Lucy? No. Lucy, the assistant producer, is from Birmingham. Yes, from Birmingham. But she hates art. She was telling me it's all its manifestations. No, she didn't tell me that. That would be crazy. Though Miko on Is It Cake 2 said his parents told him that there's no money to be made from art. Do you watch Is It Cake?
The kids,
2?
my kids absolutely love it. It's so addictive.
I like Is It Cake?
Is it cake? Yeah, man, I love that show. In our house.
You got me into that.
In our house, we shout at the thing about that's
Yeah.
cake. Number 2 is cake.
It is so brilliant.
Some of
but you
them are
start
very
questioning
obvious.
reality. You start to think everything in life may be cake.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. Who's most likely to be cake? Hairy bikers,
Yes, yeah.
not
They're
human
not
beings.
hate.
What if
One
they
of-
are actually?
one
They're
of
an
the
old
hairy
diesel
bikers,
can.
or you don't know which one.
What's that?
You have to guess which one of the hairy bikers is cake.
What about if we found out the Shard was cake?
Frank Skinner on Absolute Radio.
Frank, you've been talking, I won't say boasting, I think you're just proud of it. Your Conan the Barbarian book, coffee
Yes.
table book.
Yes.
And Roger Turner has said, did you see the woke version, Conan the Librarian? Which I think is very apt. Because I would like to discuss the Beano this morning, and that sounds a sort of Beano joke. In a
Yes.
lovely way, in the loveliest way possible, Roger. Roger's quite a Beano name,
It is, yeah.
yes.
isn't it?
As in the Dodger.
Because I have a copy. I mean, it's not in my hands. I think it's made its way over
Here.
to your side of the
Here,
desk.
I was perusing.
What is it, Frank Skinner?
It is the 85th birthday of the Beano,
Yeah.
and so
It's a celebrity special.
it is.
Who's on the cover?
Well, you tell me, because there was some mistaken identity this morning, but
Stop
maybe
it.
we shouldn't
I
go
don't
into
think
that.
we should go there. I
But,
thought Lewis Capaldi was someone else.
You did. But now when I say it was on
Never
the
mind.
cover, it's going to give that away. Anyway, Harry Styles, Lewis Capaldi and Adele are on the cover. And Tom Holland.
Change. I can't keep up.
Tom Holland is inside.
Yes.
But he's firing web. I mean, I don't mean Tom Holland, the
beg your
historian. I mean, yeah, he's firing web, but he's in his civvies. He's not in his Spider-Man. This, if ever I've seen it, it must be a copyright thing, hasn't it?
Oh, do you think that's what it is?
I
That's a
love
That makes
shame.
sense. Yeah.
What about Lewis Hamilton, the man who likes driving? He's in it.
He's in it.
What about Attenborough, Frank, your favourite?
Can I just ask, though, of our readers, 8, 12, 15, what's your favourite copyright infringement story? Because I love it when there's clearly an issue with it. I stayed at a place where they'd got a hobbit hole, beautiful
Did you?
built hobbit house. But they couldn't call it that because whatever
what
the
did they call it?
the film company now own
Yeah.
the word hobbit.
Yeah.
So yeah, it had to be called something else.
Well, also, I like it in books, in literature. Books sound like a bully special prize. In books.
Yeah,
When-
places.
Places. When you come across, they'll describe a character. And you know it's clearly based on someone, but the legal department at Bloomsbury or whatever have looked at it and said, oh no, you're going to have to check. So they say, Welsh crooner Tom Pones or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, come on, love.
But if you're going to have Tom Holland, let him have his suit. Maybe, perhaps they thought, well, they won't know if he's wearing the mask. then we can't do a really good drawing of Tom Holland.
Okay.
Maybe.
There were a few. Did you recognise there were a few faces I felt very old and out of touch. It took me a long time
You
to
felt they were old and out of touch, or you
I felt old and out of touch.
see.
I didn't recognise Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney.
No, I didn't recognise them. I mean, I recognised them if they were on the telly, but I didn't recognise their caricatures.
I was very reassured, though, at how little had changed with the fabulous Beano. Nasha still had sausages.
Yes.
A stream of those kind of cartoon sausages. And what I loved, Frank, is that in one of the cells, I loved that people still say, and this only ever happens in the Beano, as a kind of expression of frustration, gah, like G-A-H.
Oh, yeah, I've never really noticed that one. There's been a lot of coverage of the Beano's 85th birthday, and I had an image of the dandy sitting in a council flat on its own, drinking tea made with UHT milk, not even having a copy, not on the mailing list even anymore.
Was the dandy a little more, it felt a bit more gung-ho and sort of Boise to me, the dandy, because I think that was Desperate Dan. He made things very macho.
I always preferred the Beano to the dandy. The Beano also, I think, used to come out on a Thursday, which gave it more of a premiere. If someone's coming out on a Monday, you think, you know. And also it had Black Bob, which I couldn't stand, like a serious sheepdog fiction. Who cares about that? And it didn't even have speech bubbles. The writing was underneath the drawings.
And all he did was go up and down the moors. I mean, come on, mate.
It's in the countryside. It was all caps and Black Bob. Forget it.
Frank Skinner.
Absolute Radio.
Meanwhile, over at DC Thompson.
I've been to DC Thompson.
Have you?
Yeah.
How was it?
I was playing Dundee and I got the tour manager to say, can Frank come? And they gave me a tour of the place. It's
We should say, Frank, this is where the Beano is made.
Yes, because when I used to read the Beano as a kid, it used to come on that very porous paper.
Yes.
Really cheap paper with the pirate trousers serrated edge as well. Now it's quite a glossy mag. But, you know, I don't think your modern kid would take a serrated edge, porous paper anymore.
So I've got a memory. Did you, I think you talked about it on the show at some point in the past, you took Buzz to the
Beano exhibition, where I found out, I didn't know this, I thought that Biffo the Bear was the first front page star. But before him, there was an
Page 7 fella.
Yeah. The original front page Beano star was an ostrich called Big Ego. There's a lot of Freudian themes in the comic.
I was going to say, I've met a few of those in the comedy world.
Yes. He had a sort of a rough, more emotional-led friend called Big Id. And I think they were replaced by Oedipus Complex the Bear.
Do you know, you've just described my dream comic.
Yeah, exactly. I thought I was your dream comic.
Oh, Frank, you are.
Extra shows, remember, have been added in Edinburgh.
Is Buzz still into the Beano? Does he still read it?
I think he's just coming out. He's not as obsessed as he was. I think you get to an age where you turn from the Beano to Alice Cooper. Yeah. It's a very fine line.
I've tried.
But I still see him reading it on occasion.
I've tried my kids on the Beano. They absolutely love Jamie Smart, who was a cartoonist for the Dandy and who now does.
They know the names of the cartoonists.
Yeah.
Oh,
and it's Bunny. He does Bunny versus Monkey and Lushkin and things like that. And
why
they're
do you hate
absolutely
that?
fantastic.
Because I don't know. I grew up never knowing who directed a film or who wrote or drew, and all the comics I loved as a kid, I don't care. It's Backroom Boys again.
I had to have dinner with these people.
I know. Look, now I can see it, but at the time, I just wanted to read the comic.
Yeah.
I didn't need to know did the lettering.
Oh, you
or
say
who
that?
Inked it.
Like you wouldn't have leapt at the chance to have dinner with Bruce Purchase.
Malcolm Muggeridge.
But he was on camera.
On camera.
By the way, can I just add, I know I have said this, I think, when we talked about the exhibition, but it still kills me, is that Big Ego has dropped the ostrich from the front page. because audience research suggested that the readers couldn't identify with him because he wasn't a mammal. Different times, you see. Different times.
I noticed, as Dennis, am I right in thinking, so Dennis's behaviour, new gen Dennis is a bit more toned down, isn't he? Is he less of a bully?
Well, they've changed a lot of... Yes, he bullied Walter. And you know...
Jacob, you mean?
Yes. So Walter and his gang, which included one of the best names ever in a comic book, a character called Dudley Nightshirt. He was mercilessly bullied. He was a wimpy kid in glasses who Dennis was horrible to. And now he's the son of the mayor of Beano Town.
Oh.
And... very full of himself, and it's a sort of class war now has been set up with Walter as the bad guy.
The Jacob Rees-Mogg.
Yeah, because we don't want a bullying theme in 2023, for goodness sake.
Okay.
Frank Skinner on
Absolute Radio.
We were chatting about the Beano. One of the things I was thrilled to see was Iron Maiden tweeted celebrating the Beano's 85th birthday.
Excellent.
That was a nice crossover.
And have you noticed the Styles boy he's got dungarees.
Yes.
Kevin would approve.
Yes.
Kevin Rowling, that is.
Yes.
Your mate, Frank. And he's clutching a whoopee cushion. But it's quite unlike any whoopee cushion I've ever seen, because, as you know, the whoopee cushion is...
Normally orangey red, isn't it?
And what does it say on it? Always a real Bronx cheer.
Right.
There's no mention of a Bronx
Is that
cheer.
another copyright avoidance?
Yeah, I think it is.
Spider-Man.
probably could be.
I think the whoopee cushion, Steve, you've nailed it. It's fallen under.
It's been ripped apart by copyrights. I mean, I've read quite a bit this week about the people saying, the Beano, it's rubbish now. It's, older people saying, I miss the bullying and bigotry of yesteryear.
Why can't we be needlessly cruel anymore? It's not fair.
I have to say, when your kid is reading it every week, the fact that Dennis... I mean, I don't want to be a... but the fact that there's a black girl and a girl in a wheelchair in Dennis's gang feels brilliant.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
We used to think asbestos was harmless, and then we realised that was a mistake. So it's all right to change a bit, guys.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
They dealt with it brilliantly. They said, there's a quote from the head of Mischief at the Beano where he just said, every kid has the right to see themselves celebrated in Beano Town.
Yes, because what Mischief at Absolute Radio.
But what
it's a low-key position.
I'll tell you what they've hushed up, though, is the early days of the whizzer ring and all that. And I had one of those.
Oh, yeah.
Used to blow and it goes, woo! It's like on Highway 61 by Bob Dylan. I think he uses it. But if you blew it a lot... you'd look at it and be covered in blood because the thing used to take the end off your lips. So, never mind some of the unpleasantly in the comics. They actually put dangerous gifts in there as well. But I, for one, am glad that the Beano has as many of us have thought, I used to do that, but that was wrong, and now I'm doing something that's right.
Yes,
Good on the Beano, that's what I say.
I'd like to see Dennis and Nasher on Emily's podcast.
Oh, yeah. That's not a good bad idea. How I need to organise this. How about Stormzy? He's had a rebrand, and I think it suits him because he's on the celebratory anniversary issue wearing a pink suit, looking a lot more friendly. And he's coming out, he's not dropping bars, he's dropping puns, Frank. He says it looks like Stormzy weather. And do you know what? I kind of wish he was a bit like that.
And Kate Bush is in there as well.
Yes.
She says, I'm running up that hill.
I briefly mistook her for Vicky Michelle from Hello Hello in that picture.
No, enough.
There's been a lot of mistakes made.
No, listen, I've got some important things to say. Sarah Champion's up next, listen to her. But this is what's really going to excite you. There's a new series of Frank Skinner's poetry podcast starting on Wednesday with the poetry of Elizabeth Barrett Browning.
Love her.
And I tell you, it's a great poem. I'd recommend it.
Love her, love him, I'm in.
And you can download it from, inevitably, wherever you get your podcasts. where do people get them from? Makes it sound like there's some bloke on the corner.
And
Who
you need to
dishes
listen to this
them out.
podcast. We get so much praise coming in for this, which I don't share because he'll be embarrassed.
No, but it's nice. I like it. I like private praise. Do you remember that? It was after Private
Sounds like a
Benjamin. It's
70s
not
soft
very
porn
successful. Private praise about a religious GI. Anyway, thanks for listening this morning. Steve, it's always a joke. Why don't you come on the next show? I think
Why
you're
not?
much
Why
funnier
not
than
indeed?
Novelli.
Oh.
That's a joke.
That's
my
clearly not
God.
true.
We
Clearly
should have
not
said,
true.
by the way,
Have you
Pierre's...
seen the size of Novelli? Are you out of your mind?
Pierre's not here this week because
We
he's
miss you,
part of
Pierre.
a motorcycle display team at the Isle of Man TT races. I understand that he forms the apex of a human pyramid at one stage. Anyone going to that this weekend, enjoy. If the good Lord spares us and the creeks don't rise, we'll be back again this time next week. Now get out.